Hey there, this is James and welcome to another members only session with James Shipway Guitar. In this lesson we're going to talk about one of the most important things if you want your lead playing to sound great, your solos to sound great, and that is vibrato. It's something that all the great players have down in pretty much every guitar style there is. It's that important. So I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff which will help you get your vibrato sounding great. If you've been having any problems with your vibrato and getting it sounding good, then I can really relate to this, because when I'd been playing about 3 or 4 years, I went to study at the Guitar Institute in London for a year. And whilst I was there, I was lucky enough to kind of get picked up on my vibrato and told that I wasn't doing it in a very good way and that it didn't sound that great. Now, up until that point, I've been completely self-taught. I didn't know any better. I was just doing it the way that I thought was right. So I went away and I worked on some of the stuff the teacher gave me. It was kind of frustrating to think I was doing something that I thought was so basic wrong. But anyway, a few months later, I was playing in a workshop and I just suddenly thought my playing sounds better than it did before. More authority, just sounded richer, more punchy, everything sounded better. And I reckon that was when the work that I've been doing on my vibrato kicked in. And the great thing about things like vibrato and bending is that when you improve them, they have a global effect on everything you play just because we use them so much. So I'm really hoping that the stuff I'm going to share with you in this video will help you see some results in your playing in a little while, just like it did with me. So let's dive in. Let's look at a few of the areas where guitar players often struggle with vibrato. Now, it's very common to see guitar players whose vibrato is a little bit too fast, which can sound a little bit amateur in my opinion. Also very shallow, meaning the note isn't actually like dipping up and down that much. It's very just very shallow, as opposed to maybe that kind of wider vibrato, which we'll look at in a second. Also, a common mistake is that vibrato isn't rhythmic. It's kind of jagged and it's not smooth. It's kind of, see, there's not really much rhythm there. This normally comes down to control, and we'll look at how to get more control in your vibrato in just a second, which will help you to kind of avoid some of these mistakes. The mechanics of how you're vibratoing can make a big difference to how good it sounds. So let's look at some of the key points of vibrato technique now. Now, I realise that some of these points are going to be controversial because there's some very well-known players who do it differently to this. This is just the way that I find works best for me, and certainly the way that's worked best for all my students over the years. Okay, hand position. Now, the first thing that I like to do is keep my thumb over the top of the neck. Again, you will see players bring their thumb behind. Eric Clapton, for one, does it differently to this. But I like to have my thumb over there because it gives me a very stable, very strong hand position to actually control that vibrato. So I don't vibrato over the note and lose it, or it's very shallow, and I can just find I can manipulate the string better with my thumb over the top. So that's the first thing I would recommend you do. It also helps keep the guitar still, because if the guitar's wobbling around a lot when we're vibratoing, it means you're putting a lot of effort into moving the guitar and very little energy into moving the string itself, which is obviously the aim of vibrato. So we don't want the guitar wobbling around a load, and having our thumb over the top there can really help us to keep it still. The other thing that's really important is to back up the finger that's playing the vibrato note with any other available fingers. For example, if I was vibrato with my third finger, I don't want to bring these away and do this kind of thing. I want to use the sort of combined strength of these 3 fingers to help me move that string. It's going to mean I can move the string as much as I want, a lot more control, which is going to mean I can get it rhythmic, I can get it in tune, I can get it even. For the vibrato movement itself, we want to think about rotating our wrist. Now, I said earlier how I was doing it wrong when I was starting out, and what I was kind of doing was locking my hand in a fixed position and just wiggling the finger. This kind of thing. You know, it doesn't work so well. Think about anchoring the string with your finger, and in order to move the string, rotate your wrist. So if I was to do it without actually moving the string, you can see that movement there. A lot more control. I have the sort of strength of my wrist, my hand, my forearm to move the string. So that's the way we want to aim to do it. Now, all these pointers are, some of them will take a bit of time to get used to. So if they feel a bit weird now, just persevere. You know, it doesn't feel comfortable and natural instantly, this stuff. Now, vibratoing a note can generate quite a lot of noise. So we want to be aware of our right hand muting on the bass strings to keep these strings quiet. And we also don't want our fingers right on their tips so that these strings are exposed. Otherwise they're going to move like that and make noise. If our fingers are just slightly flat, you can hear it helps to keep these strings quiet so that we don't get any noise from them. So that's hand position. Now there's basically two types of vibrato with this. We've got push vibrato and pull vibrato. And which one we use largely depends which string we're on. Now, pull vibrato is where we pull the string down towards the floor, like this. Push vibrato is where we push the string up towards the ceiling, like this. Okay, so you can see the two different types there. So which one do we use? Well, as a rough guideline, on the top two strings, so that's the high E and the B string, we want to be using push vibrato, because if we use pull vibrato, the string is going to come off the side of the neck like this, unless we're just vibratoing very shallowly, which we don't want to do. Okay, so use push vibrato on those top two strings. The G string, the D string, the A string, and the E string, most of the time I'd recommend you use pull vibrato. I say most of the time because I sometimes find when I'm using my third finger on the G string, I use push vibrato sometimes. So, you know, this doesn't have to be totally set in stone. I'm trying to just give you guidelines here. Most of the time I'll use pull vibrato on that. So if I was on the D string, see I'm vibratoing down there, pull vibrato and pulling the string down towards the floor. And a little tip here, when you vibrato the note, make sure that you let it return to pitch, because if you don't, it's very easy to hold them. See, I'm basically getting an out of tune bend there. You've got to pull the string and let it return all the way back to pitch with each kind of revolution or each fluctuation of the vibrato. Otherwise, what you're basically going to create is an out of tune note. And obviously we don't want that. I think the best way to get the hang of this is just to have a short exercise which you practice for a couple of minutes a day, just to build up the strength, get used to doing it this way. So I've made up a little simple exercise for you to use. Now, if you're not used to vibrato in the way I've shown you, this will feel pretty weird at first, very awkward. I remember it certainly did when I started trying to do it this way. But just stick with it and persevere, because it's definitely worth the effort. And you'll hear a little breakthrough in a month or so in your playing, just like I did. Now, we're only going to be using our first and third fingers in these exercises. Make up some of your own to work out on your other fingers, of course. But this is enough to get a start. So let me show you what we're doing. We're going to start on the D string at the 7th fret, and I'm going to pull that down and let it back to pitch a few times like this. Then I'm going to go to the D string at the 9th fret and do that. Then I'm going to go to the G string at the 7th fret and do that one. Then I'm going to go to the 9th fret on the G string and pull that down. Now, before I show you the rest of the exercise, let's just talk about a few things here that I'm doing. The first thing you'll notice is my vibrato is rhythmic and even, okay? It's not unrhythmic, like, okay? It's even. the sort of variation in pitch is consistent. It's not really wide 1 minute and then really shallow the next. Okay, it's just smooth and it's even. And so aim for that, okay? If you can't get it to start with, that's all right. I couldn't either. But this is what we're aiming for, okay? So just keep working towards that. The other thing is, I'm trying to vibrato everything a tone wide. So I'm actually trying to create a change in pitch of 2 frets. Now this is pretty wide. Work up to that gradually. If you can get it now, great. If you can't, then that's okay. You'll get that eventually, all right? So this is what we're aiming for, is a tone wide vibrato, slow and rhythmic like that. You'll notice I'm not doing it really fast, and even sort of change in pitch, okay? They're the 3 things to sort of really think about when you're doing this exercise, because that's what's going to help you get the control, which will really give you a killer vibrato. Now moving on to the next section of the exercise, which is working out on our push vibrato. We're going to move up to the 10th fret on the B string. So it's basically the same shape moved up an octave, and we're going to push that string up. Then 3rd finger on the B string at 12. Then to the top E at 10, I'm going to do the 1st finger there, pushing. And then 3rd finger. Okay, now, a word of warning, these 1st finger ones, pretty hard work. Persevere with that. You know, I couldn't get that one at all when I started out with it, so don't worry if you're in that boat. Gradually build up to it and you'll get it. Okay, so let me put that whole exercise together. We've got our pull vibrato. And the push vibrato. Now there's one little trick I'm doing here which you might not be able to see, so I'm just going to break that down for you. And it's to do with the push vibrato. When I'm doing the push vibrato, for example on the B string here, I'm actually using my pick to mute the G string. Okay, so we can use, by resting our pick on that string, we can keep it quiet. Use it just to mute it. Okay, so you can see the tip of my pick, I'm just resting it on that G string there to keep it quiet. Okay, now I'm also trying to keep the tip of my finger up against the G string to mute it, but you know, this is just there as a backup, and I find it a really effective technique. When I'm vibratoing on the top E, so I'm using my 3rd finger, I do the same thing. And it's just there as a little safety net, and it just can help you get your vibrato really clean and clear without too much string noise. One more little thing that often people have problems with, and that's the note dying out as they vibrato it. So they start off vibratoing it, and it just kind of peters out. Make sure you're keeping the note sort of securely pinned to the fretboard as you vibrato, okay, so that the note doesn't die out. Okay, so just keep that pressure on the string as you vibrato it, and then the note should sing out rather than die out. You know, this is pretty hard on your fingers. My fingers are quite sore after working on this for this whole video, you know. Now you need to check that you're applying this in your playing on a day-to-day basis. So take any licks that you like to play, or any solos you know, or if you're improvising, and just get used to doing it this way if you're not already. If you are doing it this way, then great, but you can still check that you're getting the rhythm right, getting it a tone wide, all this kind of stuff. You know, just so you can, it just gives you something to aim for to really fine tune it. Now this doesn't happen overnight, okay? I don't want you to think that you watch this, try the exercise once or twice, and if it's really hard, it's not going to happen. It takes a little while, but like I said earlier, it's worth the effort. Anything like this that really gives you playing that real sort of classy sound doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while to develop. Also check out the playing of some of the guitar legends. See how they vibrato. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Slash, Michael Schenker, Zakk Wylde, George Lynch, Gary Moore, B.B. King, Albert King. I mean, there's obviously a lot of them. And even if they do it slightly differently, you'll still see the same fundamental things there. Their vibrato is going to be even, it's going to be smooth, it's going to be rhythmic, in a lot of cases it's going to be kind of wide, you know, so you will hear those characteristics of good vibrato in these guitar legends, even if they are moving their thumb a little bit or they're doing slightly differently to how I've shown you. So listen out for them and check out videos and check out their vibrato. If you've got any comments or questions, leave them below. But other than that, thanks for being a subscriber and thanks a lot for watching this lesson. I really hope that you're getting lots of useful stuff out of all these videos that I'm putting together for you. I'll see you next time. So bye for now.